Hello and welcome to Calmcast. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. We're going to be going over Yahoo Finance's top most active stocks and their closing prices for the American markets for July 2nd of 2025. So whether or not you're looking for the market prices today or you just want something to help you sleep tonight, feel free to listen along, and we will begin shortly. Please be aware that these are not 100% accurate numbers. They are meant to represent something close, but please do not take this as any financial advice. It is simply meant to listen and enjoy, and hopefully get some information out of. Thank you. Please enjoy. Our first stock is symbol NVDA. This is the NVIDIA Corporation, closed at $157.25 with a 2.58 increase change for the day. Our next stock is INTC, the Intel Corporation, closed at $21.88 for a negative 4.25% change for the day. Symbol F for Ford Motor Company, closed at $11.77 with a change of positive 3.75% for the day. LCID, the Lucid Group Incorporated, closed at $2.05 for an increase of about 1% for the day. Next is TSLA, Tesla, closed at $315.65 for an increase of 4.97% for the day. Next is HOOD, Robinhood Markets, closed at $97.98. That was a 6.12% increase. Next is VALE, Vail SA, which closed at $10.28 and for a positive increase of 4.63% for the day. CNC, Centene Corporation, closed at $33.78. That was a negative 40.37% decrease for the day. MARA, Mara Holdings, closed at $17.80 for a 13.38% increase for the day. OSCR, Oscar Health, closed at $16.62 for a negative 18.69% for the day. SOFI, SoFi Technologies, closed at $18.12 for a 2.72% increase for the day. AAPL, Apple Incorporated, closed at $212.44 for a 2.22% increase. QBTS, D-Wave Quantum Incorporated, closed at $15.98 for a 7.75% increase for the day. RGTI, Rigetti Computing, closed at $13.08 for a 15.45% increase for the day. NU, New Holdings, closed at $13.49 for a negative of 1.03% for the day. SOUN, Soundhound AI, closed at $11.25 for a 7.35% increase. PLTR, Palantir Technologies, closed at $132.12 for an increase of 1.1%. GRAB, Grab Holdings Limited, closed at $4.9. This was a 0.61% decrease for the day. BBD, Banco Bradesco S.A., closed at $3.04 for the day for a 0.13% increase. WBD, Warner Brothers Discovery, closed at $11.12 for the day. This was a 1.65 increase. CLF, Cleveland Cliffs Incorporated, closed at $8.76 for a 7.88% increase. APLD, Applied Digital Corporation, closed at $10.56 for an 8.2% increase for the day. RIOT, Riot Platforms Incorporated, closed at $12.2 for an 8.25% increase. SNAP, Snap Incorporated, closed at $9.38 for a 0.37% increase. BAC, Bank of America Corporation, closed at $48.71 for a 1.16% increase for the day. RIVN, Rivian Automotives Incorporated, closed at $12.87 for a negative of 4.45% for the day. CLSK, Clean Spark Incorporated, closed at $12.48 for a 12.64% increase for the day. AAL, American Airlines Group, closed at $11.63 for a 0.95% increase. QUBT, Quantum Computing Incorporated, closed at $20.65 for a 10.78% increase. ACHR, Archer Aviation Incorporated, closed at $9.98 for a 1.01% increase for the day. BTG, B2 Gold Corporation, closed at $3.68 for the day for a 1.94% increase. AMD, Advanced Micro Device, closed at $138.52 for a 1.77% increase. MRVL, Marvell Technology Incorporated, closed at $74.25. That was a loss of 2.61%. NKE, Nike Incorporated, closed at $76.39 for an increase of 4.06% for the day. IREN Limited, closed at $15.66 for a 2.82% increase for the day. ABEV, Ambev SA, closed at $2.49 for a 2.89% increase for the day. PFE, Pfizer Incorporated, closed at $25.32 for a 1.12% increase. CCL, Carnival Corporation, closed at $29.65 for a total of 3.53% increase. RIG, Transocean Limited, closed at $2.80 for a total of 5.26% increase. QS, QuantumScape Corporation, closed at $6.80 for a 6.92% increase. HPE, Hewlett Packard, closed at $21.25 for an increase of 3.76%. AT&T Incorporated closed at $28.31 for a decrease of 1.97%. AMZN, Amazon.com, closed at $219.92 for a decrease of 0.24%. JOBY, Joby Aviation, closed at $10.16 for a 3.57% increase. HBAN, Huntington Bankshare, closed at $17.40 for an increase of 1.28%. MU, Micron Technology, closed at $121.74 for an increase of 0.7%. SMCI, Supermicro closed at $48.74 for an increase of 3.26%. LYG, Lloyd's Banking Group, closed at $4.03 for an decrease of 4.73%. GOOGL, Alphabet Incorporated, closed at $178.64 for an increase of 1.59%. ITUB, Itaú Unibanco Holding, closed at $6.81 for an increase of 0.34%. RXRX, Recursion Pharmaceuticals, closed at $5.21 for an increase of 1.56%. BMNR, Bitmine Immersion, closed at $58.50 for an increase of 27.17%. RKT, Rocket Companies, closed at $14.57 for an increase of 0.62%. AG, First Majestic Silver, closed at $8.51 for an increase of 1.79%. AZEK, the AZEK Company, closed at $54.35 for a decrease of 0.93%. PSLV, Sprott Physical Silver, closed at $12.43 for an increase of 1.55%. IONQ, IonQ Incorporated, closed at $44.75 for an increase of 11.6%. HIMS, Hims and Hers Health, closed at $47.46 for a decrease in 1.04%. STLA, Stellantis NV, closed at $10.33 with an increase of 1.08%. NIO, NIO Incorporated closed at $3.48 for a decrease of 0.85% decrease. RUN Sunrun Incorporated closed at $8.99 for a decrease of 0.55%. BCS Barclays PLC closed at $17.88 for a decrease of 2.45%. CNH Industrial closed at $13.76 for an increase of 2.99%. Amcor PLC closed at $9.69 for an increase of 2.32%. Hecla Mining Company closed at $6.03 for an increase of 1.01%. ORCL Oracle Corporation closed at $229.98 for an increase of 5.03%. IAG IM Gold Corporation closed at $7.43 for an increase of 2.06%. PBR Petróleo Brasileiro S.A. closed at $12.95 for an increase of 2.86%. CMCSA Comcast Corporation closed at $35.83 for a decrease of 0.47%. PCG PG&E Corporation closed at $13.99 for a decrease of 0.99%. FCX Freeport McMoran Incorporated closed at $45.77 for an increase of 3.9%. AES The AES Corporation closed at $11.13 for an increase of 3.34%. AGNC Investment Corporation closed at $9.42 for an increase of 0.86%. ERIC Telefonaktiebolaget LM closed at $8.54 for a decrease of 0.12%. NGD New Gold Incorporated closed at $4.9 for a decrease of 0.41%. BB BlackBerry Limited closed at $4.23 for a decrease of 2.53%. NCLH Norwegian Cruise Line closed at $21.37 for an increase of 1.86%. GOOG Alphabet Incorporated closed at $179.76 for an increase of 1.61%. UNH United Health Group closed at $307.56 for a decrease of 5.7%. KEY Key Corp closed at $18.20 for an increase of 1.85%. KVUE Kenvue Incorporated closed at $20.90 for a decrease of 0.33%. AUR Aurora Innovation Incorporated closed at $5.17 for an increase of 2.38%. HLN Haleon PLC closed at $10.26 for a decrease of 0.87%. KHC, the Kraft Heinz Company, closed at $27.06 for an increase of 1.69%. MSTR, Strategy Incorporated, closed at $402.28 for an increase of 7.76%. VLY, Valley National Bancorp, closed at $9.34 for an increase of 1.63%. VZ, Verizon Communications, closed at $43.59 for a total of negative 0.21% for the day, or a decrease. RKLB, Rocket Lab Corporation, closed at $35.68 for an increase of 3.93%. ENVX, Enovix Corporation, closed at $11.12 for an increase of 9.56%. KGC, Kinross Gold Corporation, closed at $15.57 for an increase of 0.26%. USB, U.S. Bancorp, closed at $47.49 for an increase of 2.15%. GGB, Gerdeau S.A., closed at $3.05 for an increase of 4.45%. VOD, Vodafone Group Public, closed at $10.67 for a decrease of 2.2%. AVGO, Broadcom Incorporated, closed at $269.90 for an increase of 1.95%. DKNG, DraftKings Incorporated, closed at $41.32 for a decrease of 1.6%. mRNA, Moderna Incorporated, closed at $30.28 for an increase of 5.54%. NWL, Newell Brands Incorporated, closed at 5.15%. SLB, Schlumberger Limited, closed at $35.91 for an increase of 2.02%. NSFT, Microsoft Corporation, closed at $491.09 for a decrease of 0.2%. EQX, Equinox Gold Corporation, closed at $5.84 for an increase of 1.04%. D, Dominion Energy Incorporated, closed at $57.42 for a decrease of 0.4%. CAG, Conagra Brands Incorporated, closed at $21.14 for an increase of 0.43%. NLY, Annaly Capital Management, closed at $19.32 for an increase of 1.47%. PYPL, PayPal Holdings, closed at $76.31 for an increase of 1.35%. PAGS, PagSeguro Digital Limited, closed at $9.42, decrease of 0.32% for the day. CTRA, Coterra Energy Incorporated closed at net $25.03 with a decrease of 0.24%. RIO, Rio Tinto Group, closed at $60.18 for an increase of 3.22%. FHN, First Horizon Corporation, closed at $21.76 for an increase of 1.26%. COLD, Americold Realty Trust, closed at $16.98 for an increase of 1.98%. MDLX, Mondelez International, closed at $69.56 for an increase of 0.87%. LRCX, Lam Research Corporation, closed at $98.83 for an increase of 2.09%. PINS, Pinterest Incorporated, closed at $35.74 for an increase of 0.17%. NOK, Nokia Oij, closed at $5.20 for a decrease of 0.57%. LUV, Southwest Airlines, closed at $33.99 for an increase of 1.74%. SKX, Skechers USA Incorporated, closed at $63.25 for an increase of 0.21%. BHP Group Limited, closed at $50.73 for an increase of 4.25%. AMAT, Applied Materials, closed at $190.01 for an increase of 3.4%. BKR, Baker Hughes Company, closed at $39.83 for an increase of 2.95%. TFC, Truist Financial Corporation, closed at $45.03 for an increase of 1.88%. AST Space Mobile Incorporated, closed at $45.71 for an increase of 1.33%. DVN, Devon Energy Corporation, closed at $33.41 for an increase of 2.33%. TAL Education Group, closed at $10.03 for a decrease of 2.62%. SID, closed at $1.51 for an increase of 7.86%. PEP, PepsiCo Incorporated, closed at $136.48 for an increase of 0.9%. HPQ, HP Incorporated, closed at $25.85 for an increase of 1.37%. STX, Seagate Technology, closed at $151.94 for an increase of 4.76%. IQT, Samsara Incorporated, closed at $38.38 for a decrease of 1.99%. QALCOMM Incorporation, closed at $162.32 for an increase of 1.83%. PCT, Pure Cycle Technologies, closed at $13.81 for an increase of 5.99%. SHOP, Shopify Incorporated, closed at $114.77 for an increase of 1.86%. Macy's Incorporated, closed at $12.48 for an increase of 1.22%. IBKR, Interactive Brokers, closed at $58.22 for an increase of 3.37%. OMC, Omnicom Group Incorporated, closed at $75.02 for an increase of 1.61%. BSX, Boston Scientific Corporation, closed at $103.63 for a decrease of 1.1%. APA Corporation, closed at $19.49 for an increase of 2.9%. PBR-A, Petróleo Brasileiro, closed at $11.85 for an increase of 2.6%. LI Auto Incorporated, closed at $26.14 for a decrease of 2.57%. This concludes the July 2nd of 2025 Colmcast recording for the stock market. Please remember that none of this is financial advice and that these numbers may not be 100% accurate. They've been researched by myself and are targeted to be accurate, but there's no certainty as the market is always changing and numbers are always moving around. I hope that you guys have gotten some kind of piece out of this, maybe some information, some necessary numbers, or just something to relax and listen to. I hope you all have a fantastic day, and thank you for listening.